Hello, everyone, and welcome to Revit Techniques from Parameters to Schedules. My name is Juliana, and I work in marketing here at Microcat. And today's presenter is Sandra, our applications specialist. At today's webinar, we'll deep dive and focus on advanced Revit techniques, especially targeting the efficient use of parameters and schedules. As usual, throughout the webinar, you can ask a question on the left-hand corner. You can ask Sandra to revisit a step or ask any questions. This is your time, and we want you to make the most of it. And in the upper right-hand corner, you will find links to our social media, website, and YouTube channel. We post all of our webinars there at the end, so you can share with colleagues or rewatch it on your own time. You will also be sent out the recording of this webinar. I believe tomorrow is 24 hours after the webinar, so you will get that as well in your email. And if you have any questions, again, you can ask them, or you can reply to that email with the recording and inquire whatever you need. And without further ado, I'll pass it on to Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Juliana, and hi, everybody. Thank you, Juliana, for that beautiful introduction. While I share my screen, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Sandra Vogemuth. I have been an application specialist here with Microcat for the last 4 years. It was my work anniversary 2 days ago, yay for me. Before that, I was the PIMCAT manager in an MEP firm for 7 years. I have been involved with Revit since the year 2005. And today's subject that is going to entertain us is a subject that I think is still a big question mark for many of our users, which is parameters and going from parameters to schedules. A little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation up to a certain point, and then I'm going to just go into the software itself and show you a little bit of a workflow. So let's get started. And to me, one of the most important things to talk about in Revit is understanding this concept called parameters. Because basically parameters is the main driving force of the software. So the main thing is that you can create parameters for a project or for any element, component, or category in the project. Parameters that you create display in the properties palette or in the type properties palette, depending on where you or how you create the parameter or what you want to show with that parameter. You can group that parameter in those dialog boxes in a specific location. Revit handles 3 main types of parameters. One is the project parameters, and project parameters are specific to a specific project. You can include them, and I advise to include them in a template if you have your company's template. They can be added to elements or assigned to multi-categories of elements. They can be added to sheets or to views. The only thing is that project parameters, they cannot be shared, and that I say with a little bit of a yes, they can be through a workaround. There's always workarounds. Project parameters can be used for scheduling, for sorting, and for filtering in a project. Typical project parameter is the parameters that you use to categorize views. The next type of parameter is the family parameters. Family parameters control values within a family. They can use also to control parameters in a nested family. You can associate one parameter of the main family, of the host family, to you can Let me put it the other way. You can associate a parameter that comes into a nested family to a parameter existing in the host family. Width and height from a door family is a typical family parameter. Then we have shared parameters. Shared parameters are parameters that can be used in multiple families. Shared parameters can be added in a family or to a project. Shared parameters, they're stored in a separate file. They are stored in a TXT file. Every Revit session can only look at a shared parameter at a time, but shared parameters can be used for tracks and they can be used for schedules. So if a parameter in a family needs to be used as in a tag, or you want to make sure that you can schedule them, and that is going to be part of my demo, it needs to be created as a shared parameter and it's to be loaded both in the project or in the element or in the family. And then they can be used. Very interesting shared parameters. The shared parameters, when the other thing that I want to show you today is what happens when you get the family from somebody else that had the shared parameter, and that shared parameter is not part of your parameter file, of your shared parameter file. You can export those shared parameters into your shared parameter file, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that workflow. The last type of parameter that I want to talk about is global parameters. Global parameters are used in a file just to drive or report certain values. So moving on into the subject of project parameters. Project parameters, they can be created through the Manage tab, and in a moment when we go into the software, I'll show you exactly where to create them. Project parameters can appear in schedules, but they cannot appear in tags. So they can be created from the Manage tab. You will find in the Manage tab on the left-hand side of the ribbon of the Manage tab, you will find the project parameter command that opens this dialog box that allows you to create a project parameter. Like so, and then you can define what type of parameter, what discipline, and the data type depending on the discipline. And then the group under is basically where that parameter is going to be organized in the either properties dialog box or in the type dialog box, the type properties dialog box. On this side of this dialog box is where you assign that parameter to a category. I have seen project parameters used to filter out elements. So we normally say that everything that is in the Revit model will appear in a schedule, but you can filter elements that you have in the model that you don't want to appear in the schedules by assigning project parameters to them. You can organize your project browser and your sheets through project parameters. So incredibly powerful, incredibly powerful. You can also create the project parameters in the schedule properties dialog box. This button here, where it says, when you hover over it, it says create a parameter. It will bring you to this dialog box here, and it will allow you from the schedule dialog box to create a project parameter. Okay, so those are project parameters. The next item, and this is a huge can of worms, because understanding shared parameters and knowing how to use shared parameters is one of the biggest wisdom of getting through in Revit and making sure that you can schedule a whole bunch of stuff. So shared parameters, they can be used in the parameter definitions that can be used in multiple families and in multiple projects. You can add them to families or to projects. As I said, they are stored in an independent TXT file. Um, a shared parameter can be used in a tag. That is the first and foremost reason to create shared parameters. The other reason to create shared parameters, and that is one of the things that I'm going to show you in the software itself, is that family parameters, when you are in the family editor, those parameters will not appear in schedules. So you have to create a counterpart of that parameter and then link that parameter to a shared parameter so that you can schedule those parameters. And then shared parameters are also useful if you want to add a certain parameter to a multiple categories, and then you can create a multi-category schedule in Revit and use those parameters. When to use shared parameters? If you want to create a multi-category schedule, shared parameters are useful if you want to reuse parameters through a whole bunch of projects. It's part of the elements that I advise all our clients to create when they're creating templates. You need to create a shared parameter file. It allows you to automate annotation across a model. So once you face the idea of creating shared parameters, when you create shared parameters, the shared parameter files, first of all, you can create groups, and it's very important to group your parameters so that you keep organization. If you have attended more than one of my webinars, you might have already figured out that I have a little bit of an OCD in that sense that I like to organize stuff. I like things to be organized. I think in keeping a very organized shared parameter file where the parameters are organized by their specific groups, and then that makes them easier to find. As I mentioned before, and this is very important here, my last point here, that your session of Revit can reference only one shared parameter file at a time. If you have other shared parameter in a different file, they can be exported, okay, from one file to the other. This is what, when you find a parameter and when you're investigating families and you find a parameter that is not existing in your model, this export button will become active. And then once you say export, you will get this dialog box that says the parameter will be exported to the current shared parameter file and the parameter exported parameters, and then you will find that parameter here under the exported parameters. So with that said, let me jump into the project, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab this water closet, and it doesn't have connectors at this point, but if I go to the family types dialog box here, there is no information about the diameters of the pipes that either come in or out of this water closet, and most of the times your plumbing fixture schedule will need to have those parameters, and you will want to have them. So first of all, we are going to come here and create a new parameter. And when you create a new parameter, one of the things that I want you to be aware of is this part. Right? Always read your dialog boxes. A family parameter, when you create a parameter, and this is a reporting parameter, when you create a parameter in your project, very important to understand that a family parameter cannot appear in schedules or tags. Okay, so I'm going to create a parameter that is going to be called cold water radius. When you're creating parameters, notice that you can choose your discipline. So I'm going to choose a piping discipline, and I'm going to choose pipe size. Going to make it a type parameter because plumbing fixtures by type, the difference to them by type is basically that radius. Okay, and I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click create the second one, and this is going to be called sanitary radius. And again, it's going to be a type parameter. It's going to be a from the discipline piping, and it's going to be pipe size. And I'm going to leave the group under dimensions, and that is where that parameter is going to be organized in the type properties dialog box of this family. So here in dimensions, now I have the two parameters. So the cold water radius is going to be 1/2 inch. And I'm going to log this guy, and the sanitary radius is going to be 2 inches. At this point, this information is not going to appear in my schedule. To make it appear in my schedule, I need to come here and go to new parameter and go and create a shared parameter. And I can go and select that parameter is not existing, but I can edit my shared parameter file from this location. So first of all, I'm going to create a new group that is going to be called piping. Oh, I had that already, sorry. There we go. I had created that group already. So in that group, in that piping group, I'm going to create my parameter. My first parameter is going to be called cold water diameter. Always be careful how you spell here, because if you have a spelling error, it's going to carry through. Again, the discipline is going to be piping. The type of parameter is going to be a pipe size. And I'm going to click OK. And now I have that as one of my shared parameters. And I'm going to create another parameter that is going to be the sanitary diameter. And again, it's going to be a piping, and it's going to be again a. It's going to look at a pipe at the pipe size. Right. So if I click OK here, now I need to select this parameter and click OK. And now the parameter is in the parameter properties. It's still a type parameter. I'm going to say OK. And then the cold water diameter, I have to link them. But before I link them, I'm going to link them right away. So I'm going to say that the diameter is going to be the cold water use times 2. Yeah, that's working fine. And then I'm going to create my other shared parameter, and I'm going to go here and choose from my piping group this parameter that was there already, and then I'm going to give it a dimension again through a formula that is going to be sanitary radius times 2. That should work. That is all nice and hunky-dory. The next thing I need to do is connect them to connectors, right? So I'm going to come here to create a connector. In the connector, first of all, I need to define the system of the connector. So this is going to be a cold water connector. Then I need to make sure that I am going to define the connector dimensions through the option of the diameter. And I'm going to leave it that it's going to be placed on a face, and I'm going to place it here in this location. And at the same time, I'm going to create another connector that I'm going to place in this location. I'm going to clean this one up in a moment. So this top parameter, it's going to be a fixture units. the direction is going to be in. I don't need it to adjust for slope. It's going to be in the system classification cold water. I am going to link now the connector to the diameter here by using this associate family parameters. This is also the location where you associate parameters that come from a nested family into the host family. And I'm going to choose the cold water diameter, and immediately it picks up the size that it has to do. Here I'm going to change this parameter from domestic cold water to sanitary, and it's going to be also fixture units. The direction is going to be out. I'm going to ask it to adjust. The fixture units is going to be 4. I need to also associate that parameter to my sanitary diameter. There it is. I didn't give this guy fixture units. At this point, this would be interesting if I'm connecting pipe into it, and that way I'm carrying the fixture units from the plumbing fixture through the pipe. Right now, these fixture units are not going to reflect in the schedule. But at this point, I want to show you how these two parameters and this whole workflow that I just showed you will influence the schedule within a project. So I'm going to go and load this element into a project. I don't need to save it. And I'm going to place a couple of water closets here. And immediately I'm going to go and create a plumbing fixture schedule. And basically, I am just going to add to this plumbing fixture scheduler family the cold water diameter. Now, notice that now it appears in my schedule automatically in the project environment. Down here at the bottom, I have my sanitary diameter. This is the button that I was showing you before that allows you to create project parameters from within the schedule itself. I can show you what that dialog box looks like in real life. It is the dialog box that I had before in my PowerPoint. Notice that this project parameter says that it can appear in schedules but not in tags. I don't need to create any more parameters. I'm going to click OK. And this is how you add a reporting parameter through a shared parameter and allow it to be shown in a schedule. And with this, I am going to go back to my beautiful PowerPoint and open up the floor for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Sandra, for that wonderful presentation. Let me go over the questions that we have. Okay, the first question is, I got a family from somewhere else, but the export option for the shared parameters is grayed out. Why does this happen?
Awesome question, Juliana. And that happens because your active project does not have a shared parameter created, a shared parameter file attached to it. And then that export option is not going to be available. It will only come available when you create a shared parameter file in the project environment or in the family environment, wherever you are finding that export option grayed out.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, can I use share parameters to filter my schedules?
Yes, definitely you can. I have seen it done in companies that I have worked for, where it gives the ability to filter out your schedules when you have a very busy model. and keep them better organized. And that way, I mean, especially if you have models that are multidisciplined. Um, and though having shared parameters will allow you to assign to specific categories or to multiple categories will allow you to filter your schedules. Absolutely.
Thank you. And okay, as a reminder for everyone, if you want to learn any of these topics in detail, you can always take a custom training with Sandra. And we also offer group classes online. I also wanted to mention our upcoming webinar on August 22nd, official 3D, civil 3D workflows, best practices. And then on August 29th, we'll have AC collection top tips and tricks for maximizing productivity. And then on September, we will initiate a tech series. This one will be about Revit microcad tools to boost your productivity on September 4. All of these at 1 p.m., just as this one. And if I don't see any more questions, here you have our contact information. If you have any questions or inquiries, we will also be sending you a thank you email and the recording tomorrow. So you can reply to any of those if you just lost this contact or whatever and ask whatever you need. So, yeah, without keeping you guys here any longer, I would like to thank you all for attending. Thank you, Sandra, for that wonderful presentation. And again, please be sure to be checking the MicroCat website for future webinars. And this concludes our webinar today. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, everybody. Bye now.